Hello, today I want to give you some information about what soul healing is. A lot of people ask me what the difference is between psychotherapy and soul healing. And really, psychotherapy is a very small part of what we can do in order to get to the bottom of whatever it is that is tripping you up or keeping you stuck or reverting you back to old ways or just keeping you from feeling good. And so, one of the things I want to help you understand are the different levels of healing, and this is something that I think will illuminate a lot for a lot of people because of the fact that we think about healing from a physical or a psychological perspective. But in our current day, in our modern life, we don't really understand what soul healing is. In past cultures, in basically ancient times, soul healing was a very big part of everyday living. But we have lost that the more modernized we've become. And so I want to explain the three different levels that I use to help people understand all of the different aspects of our healing. So if you reflect back on my soul health model, you will notice that, of course, it's basically a picture of a tree. There's 10 branches of the human condition that everybody in my world, the way that I look at life, has to kind of look at in order to balance or rebalance or work through in order to have their optimal life. And no other wellness model really looks at all 10 of those branches. They might be condensed into a few, but really that, if you look at those branches, every single branch on that tree is something you've probably dealt with at some point in your life. But when we have times when we cannot get past something, we have what I call a soul wound or a soul trauma that is so deeply embedded in us, it's hard to rebalance our life. It's hard to realign our tree. And so sometimes we have to go deeper in order to understand it so that we can actually do that healing that needs to take place to get you unhooked from whatever that, I call it a soul snag, is that's keeping you stuck. So the three levels of healing to me or that basically number one, we have the healing of the mind. So we have to, as humans, we want to understand. We want to understand what is keeping us stuck, what has made us stuck. We want to understand where our trauma comes from. We want to understand basically where our patterns, our behaviors, our mindsets, our negative thoughts, we want to understand. And so cognitive behavioral therapy, which is probably the most studied form of psychotherapy, studies the mind. It studies how we change behaviors and thoughts and emotions through how we change basically our mind. And so lots and lots of research. So the first level is obviously understanding. So it's healing of the mind. The second part is healing of the heart. In the heart, Heart Math is a company that is doing wonderful things to help people understand that healing from a heart perspective and emotional perspective is so instrumental in getting us to that next level. And so, if you haven't already looked into Heart Math, look into it. There are wonderful videos and trainings and information on their site. But so we have to look at the emotional healing. We have to look at what are the emotions that are attached to our wounds. What is the emotion that stays stuck in us? What is the emotion that uprises in us at any given time that we think is something bad? And yet, going back to the soul health model, I talk about the fact that emotions are symptoms of the soul. The emotions are our soul's way of trying to get our attention that there's something that's still wounded in there. There's something that's misaligned. There's something in there that needs some healing or some restoration or resolution in order for us to feel whole again. So we have to kind of think about, okay, what are the thoughts that are keeping us stuck? What are the emotions that seem to be coming up and emerging at times, maybe sometimes when we don't want them to? But the repetitive kind of reactions that we have. So we have to do the head healing, we have to do the heart healing. But oftentimes those aren't enough. Oftentimes we have to go deeper. And frankly, very few practitioners, very few health coaches, very few life coaches, very few massage therapists, really very, very, very few practitioners understand that we have to go to that deeper level, which is why people will go to lots of different practitioners trying to make sure that they've hit all the different levels. But until we understand that soul healing is the core of making us whole again, we aren't going to get very far. Now, let me explain this. And I'm going to talk about some soul healing and how this all works with the soul's imprint. And I'm going to explain that metaphor in just a few minutes. But I want to help you understand that, we can have wounds from this lifetime. We can have wounds from previous lifetimes, and even wounds from previous lifetimes that carry over into this lifetime can affect us in this lifetime. In fact, it's like they piggyback, they start layering up. And so we might heal trauma or wounds from this current life, but then still be confused and really aware of the fact that why do I keep returning to this? Why do I keep feeling what I'm feeling? Why do I keep going back to these old patterns? And it could be any kind of emotion that pops up that just emerges and you don't know where it's coming from. But we have to get to the soul level in order to make sure that we are unlocking it from what I call the soul's imprint. So I'm going to give you some metaphors to help you understand this, because this is really the core of how this healing work happens. So everything is energy. Everything around us is energy. We are energy. This computer is energy. This phone is energy. This pencil is energy. So everything that exists on this planet has a different frequency of energy. And so we have to think of it in terms of soul wounding our soul's imprint. So the wounds that we have will leave an impression. It will leave a wound. It will leave an energetic imprint on us that sticks with us. And that's what needs to be resolved or removed in order for us to move forward and feel whole and feel like we have resolved. So I'm going to give you some metaphors about this. So a couple different ways to think about this. Number one, so if you think about the soul as a ball of energy, if you think about the fact that if you have wounds that are so deeply embedded, that something that happened either tragically or repetitively, or something that really wounded you in a betrayal kind of way, it could be anything. It leaves an imprint, it leaves a mark, it leaves something like a shadow. So I call it an energetic imprint on our soul when we have something that is so deeply embedded in us that we don't know how to get rid of it unless we get to that level. So couple other metaphors to go with this. So a fingerprint. So oftentimes we don't know fingerprints are there until we dust for them. So there's a latent image that is attached to where someone has been and laid their fingers, but we don't know it's there until we look for it. We don't know that energy is still sitting there. Same thing is if someone has had some sort of physical trauma to their body, or they have had scarring, or they've been abused, or they've broken a bone in the past, a lot of times they might look perfectly healthy from the outside, but then when someone does a scan or an x-ray, the practitioner that's reading the scan or the x-ray will look at it and say, okay, there's been some previous damage there. We would not know that it was there unless they did the scan, unless they looked for it. So we've got the idea of the fingerprint. We have the idea of basically an x-ray or a scan. Another way to look at it is, for those of you who are old enough to remember what a mimeograph machine is, or even using a printer these days, sometimes a copy will come out and there's a little bit of a shadow, or there's a little bit of a mark that isn't on the original sheet, but somehow we know it's either on the glass top of the copier, or maybe there's something on the printer drum. On the old mimeograph sheets, a lot of times it would just be a smudge that was somehow in the printer system, so that they would, the copies that would come out would have some sort of a latent image. Again, you wouldn't know that there was something going on within that machine until that print came out. So it's the whole idea of basically understanding that the soul's energy that is wounded leaves a mark. It leaves a wound. It leaves a scar. It leaves some sort of a dent or a ding or whatever you want to call it. And so if you're doing everything you can to change something or heal from something and nothing seems to be working, it probably means there's some deeper damage. There's probably some sort of scarring or wounding. It could be a past life incident. It could be some sort of karmic kind of situation. It could be a life lesson that you're supposed to learn from. It could be any of those things. But until you start looking for it, until you go to a deeper level, you're not going to know you need to heal it. The reason that I'm bringing this up is that I'm trying to help people understand how the psyche and the soul work together, and how the physical part of our experience as human beings overlays and overlaps with the soul part of us. I've been doing therapy for some form about 34, 35 years now. And throughout that time, I have worked with people that just keep skipping over. They feel snagged, they keep getting stuck in the same old pattern. And it's not until we do the soul healing part of it to discover what that soul's imprint is that we get somewhere. And like I said, very, very, very few practitioners would even know where to start. And that's why we need to get this information out to the world, that there's something deeper going on. So again, I call it the energetic imprint of the soul. So there's something that is kind of smudged on your soul, or has wounded or marred the purity of your soul, that is keeping you stuck. And it's not until we get to those deeper levels, those latent images, that will help you get unstuck. Now, I've been doing soul work for, I don't even know how many years now. I really don't. 34 years comes easy because I can link it back to graduation. But it's one of those things where with with doing the soul work, it's blended into everything I do. It's blended into the teaching I do. It's blended into the one-on-one conversations I have with either therapy clients or soul session clients. It's embedded in day-to-day conversations with my friends because we cannot separate it. We cannot pull it apart to say, okay, we're going to go do the human healing and we're done. We can't do that because we're living both. We are living the human condition and the soul condition. So I'm going to be providing a lot more information about what this means about healing the soul. How is it that we go deeper? The soul is the very essence of who we are. If that essence has been wounded or betrayed or hurt in some ways, uh, again, this lifetime or previous, we can't move on. We cannot feel whole. We cannot evolve fully until we have fully resolved whatever that wounding is. So it's almost like we have to take your soul to the body shop and polish it out and get that smudge off of your soul, metaphorically speaking, so that you can move forward. So in the months to come, you're going to see a lot more about the language that will help you understand how to put this together for yourself. You're going to understand more and more about why we stay stuck and how we can illuminate everything to move forward. That is part of the evolutionary process. So again, we can do the mind healing, we can do the heart healing, but really it's not until we do the soul healing that we really reach what I call radiant health. It's bringing to full circle and to fruition what we think of as far as whole health or radiant health. So wanted to plant these seeds for you today to help you understand there are layers. I'm going to help you understand where it's taking you. I am in the process of developing these trainings for practitioners, coaches, administrators, anybody who really wants to understand these levels of healing, because we've got to get to the deeper levels. This soul stuff has gone overlooked for far too long, and so we've got to get there to that level. So stay tuned, more to come, but just think about these levels of healing and think about the energetic imprint that is left on your soul by some of the things that have happened in your life. And we will take you forward in your own evolution. Have a great day. Thank you.